in the transition from Web 2 to Web 3, exploits have been on the rise. Joining us now to discuss is Uniswap Chief Operating Officer Mary-Catherine Lader. Hello there, Mary-Catherine. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, so earlier, Chainalysis released a report that, for instance, North Korea has been targeting DEXs, which for exploits, which has been converted, tokens have been converted to ETH, sent to coin mixers, turned into Bitcoin, and then ramped onto centralized exchanges into cash. So I wonder, how much of a problem are you seeing this on a DeFi exchange like Uniswap?
So 2 points. First, the Uniswap protocol is totally decentralized and a permissionless protocol. Uniswap Labs, the company where I'm COO, builds products on top of the protocol. And we provide safety measures as well as measures to prevent activity like what you just described. So Uniswap Labs does block all sanctioned actors and wallets. We work with companies like Chainalysis and TRM Labs to prevent exactly what you just talked about. So I would say that there's actually less activity than that than some of the news reports might suggest. Of course, all open source technology and so much of crypto, like the internet, is neutral and can be used by good actors and by bad actors. And so I think that's part of why a priority is going to be placed on safety and on products that provide access to those protocols in a context where users know who they might be interacting with. For example, Uniswap Labs, one of our goals is to get more adoption from big pools of capital, from those who aren't yet in DeFi. And in order to do that, they need to really understand how they're protected from risks like what you described.
So are you talking to folks? We're here at Crypto Bahamas. There are a lot of hedge funds, a lot of institutional folks here. And are they interested in DeFi?
They're fascinated by DeFi. And I think that some of the core principles of DeFi, like self-custody, for example, sort of explode the paradigm in which traditional financial services operates. And so even saying something like you have to custody your own assets, it takes a little bit of explaining as to why that's a benefit and not a detriment. But absolutely, we see everyone from some of the high-frequency market makers who have been fast to adopt crypto. They have very strong relationships with FTX, for example, but also more traditional investors, asset managers, hedge funds are all interested in DeFi, in part because I think they recognize that this is a fundamental technological disruption of the way that markets have operated so far.
What are the barriers to entry then, and what are some of their concerns? Would wash trading be one of them?
So they're most focused on, well, first of all, they need to understand the technology. So who are they interacting with? Even the notion that anyone in the world can be a liquidity provider is a pretty fundamentally new concept. So just to take a step back, as you know, the Uniswap protocol and decentralized exchanges allow anybody to be a liquidity provider. So they take what had historically had massive barriers to entry and make it available to anybody. So there's a lot of education, I would say. We don't really proactively engage with those investors, but we do provide technical resources that are available to them so they can understand that. And then I come from traditional finance, so still have a sense
as to... You were formerly with
Blackrock and Goldman Sachs. And so I have a sense as to how I oversaw blockchain and crypto at Blackrock when I was there. Since I left, the firm has done a lot. But I have a sense as to what the issues on a lot of those executives' minds are. And I think that it's trying to understand where the technology solves problems, where it's really advantageous, and then understanding, of course, like how they can manage risk, given that 24/7 markets are a totally new paradigm for many as well.
Well, I mentioned wash trading. Is that something of a concern on Uniswap, and what are the protocols installed to prevent it?
Wash trading is a problem that certainly any exchange, whether they're an NFT platform, a marketplace, or an ERC20 and standardized token marketplace, definitely tries to prevent. So that's the open source the protocol itself does have any actors can use it, but it's certainly something that I think needs to be diminished in order to have more mainstream adoption overall.
Okay. Is that a concern expressed by those institutional?
To be candid, it's actually not. The primary concerns I hear are, how do I understand who I'm trading with? So it's more about who do I know, who I'm interacting with, because a lot of the traditional anti-money laundering and know your customer or counterparty rules, they don't really fit perfectly in DeFi. And so we're going to have to think about new ways to provide some of that comfort and mitigate those risks of understanding who you're trading with that aren't necessarily just applying today's rules, which don't take into consideration today's technology.
In the meantime, you have a couple of announcements, say the Swap Widget as well as
Yes.
a venture fund. So tell me about a bit about what you're investing in. What how big is the fund, and what is a Swap Widget?
So let me start with the fund. So Uniswap Labs did start a venture group. Many crypto companies have started to do this, and I think it demonstrates how collaborative the industry is. That we recognize that there's a long way to go in improvements in user experience, whether that's safety, as we've been talking about, or just simplicity. And so we're backing the best Web3 teams. We've made about 16 investments in 2 months, and we are doing everything from investing in bridging to investing in social features for NFTs. And our goal is to really accelerate adoption of the whole space, because Uniswap is a first step for many. It's in our interest to help grow the whole market. On the Swap Widget, so the Swap Widget allows anybody with one line of code to integrate the full swapping experience. So we partnered with OpenSea, Friends with Benefits, a major DAO, and Oasis, a DeFi app, as launch partners, and they integrated it. So what that means is now when you go to OpenSea, if you don't have enough wrapped ETH in your wallet to buy an NFT, you can swap whatever you may have without leaving the OpenSea experience. So
we'll be seeing more Uniswap in more applications.
It's a core enabler of Web3, and so that's the hope, is that it can be that much easier for people to use.